And all of us at the Mississippi Book Festival are very honored to call Traci a friend and a supporter. Traci Thomas.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you guys for clapping for all of my 3 things. I love you. So I get to introduce these 2 lovely humans. And because I am mortified by all introductions, I'm going to just give you a very casual intro. So this is Jason Reynolds. You already know him. He is a beloved by me and everyone in this room, apparently, author. He writes books for young people. If you're not familiar with him yet, your children certainly are. His most recent book is 24 Seconds From Now. It came out, and he's got a forthcoming book called Coach coming in October, which is the 5th book in the Track series. So Ghost, Lou, Patina, that's out of order, and Sunny. Now Coach, it's purple. So that's Jason. He's also the poet laureate or the young people's laureate. You used to be. It's a big deal. So that's Jason. And then next to Jason is Hanif Abdurraqib. This is a conversation between friends, and since Kiese couldn't be here, Jason and I said, well, let's ask our other friend, Hanif. We cornered him in the hotel lobby and said, do you want to be our friend? And Hanif is a author as well. His most recent book is There's Always This Year. He's also a poet. You might know him from his book, A Little Devil in America. He does everything. And that's Hanif. And he's from Columbus, Ohio. And he has a forthcoming book of poems next year. Okay, I want to start with the books. We're going to talk a little bit about books, then we're just going to talk, because our prompt was a conversation between friends, and usually we don't talk about the books because we're friends, but we're going to do a little book, then we're going to do the friend stuff. And here's where I want to start. Both of you have your next books are sort of going back to previous stuff you did. You published poems early in your career. You published this Track series years ago. You've both decided to go back. A, why? And B, what is it like revisiting things that you used to do after having sort of gotten to be Hanif and Jason?
You gotta turn it on.
Turn it on. I don't think I ever was. I never wanted to do this. It's weird. Like, I wrote the Track series so long ago. Coach, I think, came out in 16. Ghost came out in 16, I think. And I just, people have been asking, right? The books came out, they did what they did. And people were like, yo, all the kids want Coach, or teachers want Coach, or parents want Coach. And I kept trying to explain to people that if I write Coach's story, then all the characters that you come to love won't exist because they weren't alive when Coach was a kid, right? And because of the category in which I write, typically I would have to age Coach down. I would have to bring Coach back to like 13, 14 years old in order for this to work. And then life happens, right? And you're like, man, it's kind of itching at me. I can feel sort of the story germinating, and I'm like, all right, well, what would it be like to sort of explore 1988? Right? What would it be like to try to bring young people? Because it's tricky to do this with kids, because sometimes this goes well, and sometimes they're like, we don't care about what happened in the past. We want everything. I'm like, either I want things way in the future, or I want things right now. And it can be tricky to sort of navigate the past and figure out what pop culture references to use, what won't they care about, right? So luckily, 88, I can talk about Jordan, right? I can talk about Back to the Future, right? I can talk about Carl Lewis. Right? These are sort of the touch points that I can talk about the crack epidemic in a way that sort of helps us understand who these kids are that they know, right? And what has happened to their parents and their communities and so forth and so on. You start to sort of seed those things. And so I hope it works. I like it, which at some point is all that matters, right? But it really was a struggle for me to make that decision, because I haven't done anything like it. And it's like, all right. And is it too far gone? The series has been out for a long time. Yeah. And to add a 5th book 5 years after the last one seems like, but whatever, here we are.
I'll read it.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
We're all going to read it, probably. What about you, Hanif?
Well, first off, sorry, I'm not as disappointed as you are that I am not Kiese. I share in your disappointment that I'm not Kiese. Also, this is the anniversary of the churches being laid. It said, didn't I say September 11th?
September 14th.
Oh, shit.
Yeah,
That's tomorrow.
That's tomorrow.
it's tomorrow.
1882?
Can you do that math?
Look at that.
I can do the math of who built the church.
You got- You're gonna have all these sweet Southern folk.
Yeah.
You know, cussing these people church. You know, say,
I don't think I ever stopped writing poems. I think, like, I don't mean that as a braided thought. That was a separate thought from the...
I got it.
You know, like, my first... That was one of those things where, like, the black people responded in one wave of things, and everyone else in the room was like, oh, wait. My first two books of poems, you know, my last book of poems came out in 2019, Fortune for Your Disaster. But since then, I don't believe I've ever stopped writing poems. There's always, this year, it's kind of like a book-length poem.
Yeah.
If I think about the way that I was drawn to poems and what excites me about poems, the poem is putting a filter of beautiful language over what some would consider the mundane. And so that's kind of always been the project of the work. There's always, this year, has like a poetic form built, like literally there's like a ghazal at the end, and there's like a sonnet, there's sonnets in the middle, and there's, you know, A Little Devil in America has poems in it. And so I think the work of taking to a book, like a book of poems, is different for me and challenging but fun. Fortune for Your Disaster was a hard book to write. Like, it really messed me up. Like, it really messed with my head for a long time. And so much of my avoidance of the poem, making a book of poems, was like, I know what it's like to make the kind of book of poems I want to make, and I don't know if I can do it. Like, I don't know if I can actually emotionally do it. And in this book, actually, is significantly more challenging than a Fortune for Your Disaster. Fortune for Your Disaster is like run-of-the-mill breakup book. You know, it's like Stag's Leap. You know, it's like your run-of-the-mill divorce book. Maybe not run-of-the-mill. I don't think it's run-of-the-mill, because like most divorce books by men are kind of not... you know, they're kind of punishing. That's a more critical way of saying what in Fortune for Disaster, I was trying to be a little bit more introspective. But the book I'm writing now, I mean, I'm always looking up at Your Jumping is so much of a book about the bewilderment of my own survival, where it's like I'm looking back on all the people who I've buried before I turned 25 and kind of looking at my own self in the mirror, like, how are you still here? And that's a much harder book to reckon with, but I'm having an incredible time. It's going to be very bizarre when the poems begin to trickle into the world, because I think people are going to be like, these are so sad. But I'm having the time of my life. Like, really, I'm having the most fun I've ever had writing poems. And I actually think that is indicative of where my heart is now and how willing I am to be in this sense of overwhelming bewilderment and say, it's weird that I'm still here, but isn't it kind of great?
Yeah. Do you guys have favorites of your own things? And do you ever tell people what your favorite thing is?
Favorite books?
Yeah, sure. Like favorite work that you've
mine?
done. Yeah,
That I've
like, do you
written?
have like a favorite book? You've written enough, and you've written a lot, even more than enough.
Yeah.
I mean, don't stop. But do you have a favorite? Like, I know people always come up to you and they're like, A Long Way Down, or like, This Always Is Near, that's my favorite. But
A Long Way Down is my favorite Jason book.
Definitely not mine, though.
Not yours.
No.
That's the way it is, though, isn't
That's
it?
why I'm
Your most
wondering.
favorite?
That's why I want to know what your favorite
Yeah, my
of yours
favorite
is.
is easy. There are two that I love more than all the other ones, and that's book 2 and book 3, which is Boy in the Black Suit and As Brave as You. And they're the ones that the critics call quiet novels. They've done the least amount of selling and make the least amount of noise, and I think they're the best written and the most special to me than all those books.
Yeah, I think the book of mine that people seem to love the most is maybe my least favorite of mine, which is...
My favorite
Make You
is
Feel It.
Last Joint.
I know, that's his favorite. My favorite is All
To
Little
me,
Devil
that's a
in America.
masterpiece.
Yeah, I think...
There's
I mean,
always this shit.
I think my favorite is There's Always This Year, if only because I think I didn't know how to write it until I wrote it. You know, I think to see that book come to life and to really fight with it. That book was initially, I said this when we did our talk, that book was initially flipped. It was initially the clock, everything worked backwards. And I'll never forget, I feel like I have the best editor in the world, Maya Millette, who's just, I love Maya Millette's editing so much that when Maya edited A Little Devil in America freelance, she was just like a freelance editor I found. I was like, I would like to have a black woman editor work on this book. I just found Maya. And the way we worked together was so brilliant that when Random House was like, we would love to bring you back for 2 more books, I was kind of like, you're gonna have to hire, like, you're gonna have to put this woman on payroll, you know what I mean? Otherwise, I don't know, you know? And so it was great to to take There's Always This Year to Maya in this way where it began, in this reverse way and the countdown clock was happening. And she said this thing to me that I'll never forget was like, you wrote a very hard book. Like, I can't believe that you pulled this off. Let's make it good. You know what I mean? Like, there's a difference between writing a challenging book and writing a good book, and I didn't know that before. And There's Always This Year was really fun to say. I felt so proud of myself when I wrote the hardest book I could write, and then I read it and I was like, but this is for no one but me. And I would love to craft this book in a way that makes it for everyone. And the bridge between the book for me and the book for everyone was a really fun one to cross.
Yeah.
I do love Go Ahead in the Rain, though. I really love that book, too. That book means a lot to me because that was the first long-form nonfiction project I wrote that wasn't just a bunch of essays, and that was cool.
Why is There's Always This Year your favorite of his?
Because I think it's the height of all his powers. To me, when I think of Hanif, and I always tease, when we did our talk back then, I was like, there's a thing. There's a thing, right? And I don't think that I don't think it's a telegraph thing, but I think it's a thing that once I've read all these things, so much of your work, it's like, oh, there is this sort of how do we connect these disparate ideas, or seemingly disparate ideas? How do we metaphorize things that we would normally not metaphorize? How can we figure out how to take male pattern baldness and use it as a way to discuss the passage of time? Right? That's a really special thing that he's really good at, right? And anyone who's read enough of his work, you'll notice that he's saying there's a mundane thing that we see every single day that he's going to turn on its head just so to have us ask ourselves questions about much bigger things. And to me, for my own personal taste, that is the sign of the writers that I like. Right? I like to be a little bit manipulated. I know we talk about that word in this way that's the writer is manipulated and it's not good. I'm like, no. I want to experience The Sixth Sense 20 more times and not see it coming.
I like to be manipulated.
Right? I like that. And so that's and in this particular book, because I know he's a poet and I know he's all these other things, and I know sort of his passion for music, his passion for sports, his passion for Ohio, his passion for Ohioans, right? And him making sure that people know that watch your mouth when you're talking about my home, because he's done that to me. Because when I first met Hanif, I made a joke about Columbus, and it was very quickly he let me know that wasn't a thing, and talked about all the things that that Columbus, and to me it was I like people who ride for your set, right? I like that, and so all of that is in this book, right? Heartbreak and his stuff with love and grief and all the Hanifness in one particular, it's the height of it all in one particular book. I think that to me was I hadn't seen anything like it, and I gushed about that. And still, I think this is the most special thing to me that he has written.
You gushed about it to me.
I did,
Yeah,
and everybody else that was around me is this is the book.
Let's move on.
What?
No. You know what else? Let's not move on, because you know what else is that is that I also think it's okay for us to have these moments.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay.
I do too. I don't love being on this end of them.
I know,
I like them.
but we need to make sure, brother, we don't always make it.
For real.
So while we have our moments of breath, it is important that we accept these moments. It's important. One day, you or I, we're going to be out of here. And I would hate for there to be a moment these things weren't said. It's very important to me.
Well, let's talk about you then. That's good. Hanif, why is A Long Way Down your favorite of Jason's books?
So I actually don't know how much I feel beholden to the broad scope of young people's literature, right? Yeah. And some of this is because I grew up with real poor, with no books in my house. So my young people's literature, I read Women of Brewster Place when I was 10, you know what I mean? Because this is what we had in the crib.
Right.
And my mom was like, this is what I got. And so I think actually what Jason does, not only in that book, but through his whole body of work, but what happens most, I think, effectively in that book is that he is demanding a lot of the reader as though they are any age at all. He's demanding the same thing out of a teenager that he's demanding out of a 40-year-old. And there's ways that happens. The book has this really musical propulsion to it, a real musicality in the language, but also I'm a big pace, pace is really important to me, and I really don't love a book that is beautiful but has no propulsion. And I really love Jason's work because you are a poet as well, you understand that we have to get somewhere in a very small amount of time. And there's a way that that doesn't always translate to a longer form body of work, but in all of your work, we are getting somewhere in almost every sentence. And that's really hard to do. It's really hard to pull that off for a full book. And I actually think it is a manifestation of this kind of close attention to detail and remembering that you have. You know, like I feel like even in our conversations, you're remembering small things, you know, or like you're building an archive of small things. It's earliest when we talk about Ross Gay, like that's this very Ross Gay thing too, where it's like you're building this archive of moments, not because you are trying to hold them against someone in the future, but you're actually trying to build something that is moving us forward and forward and forward.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say nice things now, but I have different favorites because I'm a contrarian. My favorite of yours is A Little Devil in America, specifically 2 essays that I think about more frequently than I should admit. The Gimme Shelter. Have you guys read A Little Devil in America? No? Yes? Okay, well, I'm sure they have it on sale here. You should certainly get it. But there is this the reason this is my favorite essay, and also the Whitney Houston one, but for a different reason.
We just talked about
we were talking about the Whitney Houston one earlier, which we're going to get to. But the reason that I love the Gimme Shelter essay, and what I think that you do better than anyone I've ever read, is that you make me hear a song that I know in a totally different way. Like, how many times do you think, as a human being alive, I'm almost 40, I've heard Give Me Shelter? I had never heard where her voice cracks. I'd never noticed that. And in the most recent book, you do it with the My Girl. When we did our event, I made the sound guy play the song so that everybody could, I made him read it, and then I made them play it so that you could hear the way that you hear music. It's revelatory to me because it's such a reminder that we're all seeing and hearing art in different ways. And it's so refreshing. And then my favorite of yours, I think you know, is Look Both Ways. The stories, the kids, the walkers. I don't feel like people are talking about Look Both Ways enough for me personally.
I think it's the best written book.
It's so good.
For me.
It's about kids walk to school, the interconnected short stories. Story number 2, there's
low cuts,
the sprinkles.
Yeah.
Can't handle.
No one knows what you're talking about.
Nobody knows what I'm talking about. You need to, okay, who does know what I'm talking about? Okay. Everybody remembers story number 2, okay? You can't. But what both of you do, the detail, but the humor. It's like you both are able to do these things that are big, heavy lifts, but it doesn't feel like that for me, the reader. And I think, to your point about manipulation, you both are good at manipulating me into enjoying being with you, because there's always this year and A Little Devil in America, and all of your books actually are hard. Like, it's not easy to read your stuff. Like, you require a lot from us, and yet I'm so happy to be there. And so I feel like, you know, obviously I talk about books all the time, and one of the things that I think about a lot is like, how can we make people love books? Obviously not you guys. We're all at a book festival on a Saturday. You know, like, it's like, this is not the audience for this conversation, but I am thinking about it because I want other people to get to experience you guys and everyone else who's writing great things. And I think what you all are doing by bringing in the joy and the humor with the craft is that you make it really easy for me to say, hey, person who doesn't read, I think you'd really like A Little Devil in America. And that to me is such a gift because you make my job easier. And if you do something nice for me, I love you.
I appreciate you telling that we're funny. I think I am funny, and I don't get enough credit for being funny.
I don't think you do.
One thing I was, because I think people read my work and they're like, what a sad, but also, I mean, we're all friends. Who in here is like pretty depressed? Like, in a clinical sense. Are you also like, keep your hand up if you're like simultaneously depressed and also the funny friend. There's a very clear like arc between those two engagements. And I think the funniest people I know are also the people who I know who are pressed up against the world in the most raw and uncompromising way. And so I think
comedians.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, because you figure out at least I figured out at an early age that the way I could get out of fist fights, like I could fight, but I didn't want to fight, but I could play the dozens better than everybody else. And that presented a different kind of fear in other people. You know what I mean? Because, like, yeah, you can win a fight. That's great. You've won this physical competition. But you could be embarrassed for the rest of the year. You know what I mean? And that's a little bit more damning. So I appreciate you acknowledging the fact that I'm a very, very funny person and incredibly charming as well.
Very charming, very funny. Think you're great. Please don't make fun of me. Thank you. Okay. Earlier today, we were on a walk coming here, and Jason had a question for Hanif that I'd like you to ask again in front of all of these people, and I'd like you all to just respond organically, okay? Just whatever comes to you. Go ahead.
Okay, my question to Hanif, which he promptly shut down, but my question to Hanif was, is the Isley Brothers the greatest band of all time, right? Which is right? But here's the thing, I see Cree is shaking your head no. But let me explain what my argument, thank you, Hanif. Can I at least argue the point, Cree?
Go ahead, after you.
No, you know what it is that I don't think people really understand.
I don't think people know their body of work.
People don't know the body of work.
Yeah.
When you think the Isley Brothers got their first hit, Cree, since you nod in your head? Close. But yeah, close. But in 1959, right? And so in 59, and so my argument was basically that, like, this is a band who, by the way, whose music, at least their hits, which is like 30, live in the zeitgeist in a really interesting way, most of which we don't even know they made, right? They just kind of live amongst us and we don't know it's them. And it started in 59. We're talking 5 decades. Now, Hanif said, yeah, but you got to deal with the 80s. But then he also said, but most black musicians at that time struggled during the 80s.
A lot of bad black albums in the 80s.
In the 80s.
Which I think that people don't consider because, like, a lot of black stars came out of the 80s.
Sure.
But those albums weren't great. Unless you're like Prince, you know,
yeah.
No one loves Whitney Houston like I love Whitney Houston. Like, really, I'm in whatever the top percentile is. But we know how those albums were sounding. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because the goal at that time was singles. It was like, how can we get these hit singles? No one was structuring records.
The pop star.
Yeah. The making of the black pop star superseded the making of the quality black album, I think.
Yeah, and so Hanif also argued that the Isley Brothers' body, like their albums weren't as great as the hits were, which I can't argue that. But like if we were to just look at one big album, if we were to take their
like
hits,
a greatest hits type thing,
which is a lot of songs.
Yeah.
They're in the conversation, and we don't talk about them enough as if we were like, that Earth, Wind, and Fire. And I'm like, bro, the Isley Brothers got...
I think the Isley Brothers are better than Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Thank you. Okay,
however,
well, I
do think, I think all of this comes down to what criteria exists for what you think makes the greatest artist.
Yes.
I'm such a big body of work person, and I mean that from the standpoint of albums. Like, I think you have to have at least one classic album in your catalog. And I actually think you have to have a classic album. So, for example, my rebuttal was that the Isley Brothers are not even the best band to come out of Ohio because I think the Ohio players are just, that run of records is like unreal. There were like 4 albums where they didn't have a bad song, you know what I mean? And I think that body of work, but I would even say if the Isley Brothers put together one massively influential single album, I'd be more into the argument. I do think they're great. I think they're phenomenal.
And they were able to make the jumps.
They did make the jumps.
Most people can't make the jumps.
They made the jumps across
50s,
many decades.
60s, 70s, and then a little bit in the 90s, which Hanif was like, you don't really think that music was... Listen, I know he who shall not be
But it's
named.
true. It is true that they made those jumps.
But they made the jumps.
They made those jumps. And they made those jumps in a way a lot of black musicians couldn't, because especially you think about like black musicians I love dearly, like Stevie Wonder, who just really could not translate.
What the fuss?
Yeah.
Trash.
I mean, but
Seriously, like it's okay.
We're all friends here.
Stevie got, I would say 5 classics.
So many classics.
Yeah, but
it doesn't matter what Stevie does.
It doesn't.
If you make songs in the key of life, Stevie Wonder could make an album of him snoring.
Yeah.
He could make like a black version of Metal Machine Music, and I would be into it. Like it doesn't matter. Like at some
that wasn't
point,
a good song.
Yeah.
What the fuss wasn't a good song.
Jungle Fever's kind of embarrassing.
Jungle Fever, another one.
Just on like baseline lyrical level.
So weird. He got, it happens though, but he was trying to keep up.
And instead of like building, and here's the difference
Instead of doing
between
what the Isley Brothers did.
Instead of fitting seamlessly into the moment, he tried to like rebuild his own moment, and that's maybe that you got to kind of, I think I love Prince a lot, and I think. Of course, I think most people in the room ideally love Prince.
But are we going to have a real conversation about Prince?
You don't like Prince's records?
No, I think that Prince is, to me, the greatest, he may be, to me, like top 3 ever in any category. But there's a lot of bad albums, bro.
Of course there are.
So
He made a lot of albums.
So you gotta let the Isley Brothers cook if we're gonna put Prince in the argument. That's a lot of bad records.
Do the Isley Brothers have any single album? Let's say what's Prince's 4th best album? Like Love Sexy? Do the Isley Brothers even have an album as good as Love Sexy?
See,
No.
I think so.
Really?
We can move on. But yeah, I think so. I think I get this argument, but I think you're being a little unfair about their albums. I think that there are a few of them. I would say, what's the joint? The album with Harvest for the World on it. Do you know that?
I do know that album.
See?
Yeah, that's a good album.
Like, see,
good album.
my OGs in the room like that.
That's a good album. I do think there's a difference between a good album and a classic album, you know?
Come on,
And that's
Hanif.
You have
important.
a lot. You do have a real hierarchy
Come on,
of judgment.
Is that an absurd thing to say, that there's a difference between a good album and a classic album?
So, all right, but we're talking about Prince's best.
but
You
no,
said
I want
Prince's
to hear.
4th best.
I want to hear the difference to you between a good album and a classic album.
Okay.
I'm just curious what.
But I agree that there
Let's
is a
use a
difference.
contemporary musician as a baseline. I think you could sell me on The Emancipation of Mimi as a classic album from Mariah Carey. You cannot sell me on Butterfly as a classic album. It's a good album.
I think the opposite. I think. Well, no.
Or take your pick from the catalog. Like I think there's
I
a lot
actually
of.
agree. I actually agree with that.
Or you can sell me on. You can sell me easier on To Pimp a Butterfly as a classic album than you can on Say Damn, which is a good album. And this is the problem. You know
It's
what?
so subjective.
This is the reaction is
I'm
interesting
struggling there because I think those are both classic
Can
albums.
I make a point about music criticism? Music criticism has drilled a thing into everyone's head that is strictly binary, where and this is also in sports, this is also in the way we consume everything, where either it's a perfect classic or it's bad. There's a lot of land in between those two things. And so when I'm like, I don't know if Damn is a classic album, people were groaning like, but it's like, that's still a very fucking good album.
Yes.
You can look at, for example, if we map this onto sport, and I had to think about this a lot, but there's always this year because people were doing the like, everyone can't be LeBron and or Jordan and or Steph Curry and or whomever. There's like a lot of guys who are very good who are not that great.
Right.
But we're talking about the great. It's okay, everybody. Look at we are in the South in a church.
What happened?
Hanif? I don't know. I just want to make sure you know.
He swore in a church. Yeah. We're not from here. Sorry.
I think I agree with this. I agree with this. I'm just saying that the Isley Brothers is a LeBron and a KD and a Steph.
I think the great argument for the Isley Brothers is that they endured through a lot of decades and transformed through a lot of decades in a way that a lot of black musicians just didn't have the wherewithal to.
The
Okay,
point
what if
is,
they're
listen to the Isley
actually-
Brothers. Familiarize yourselves with
What
that.
if the Isley
Tell these
Brothers are
people, please.
actually like Andre Iguodala?
No.
No.
Transcended
I mean, my
Time,
argument
played
was that
really
they're like a
well
top
for a
20
long
band.
Finals MVP, very good.
He puts them in the top 20.
I put them in the top 20 for sure.
And I put them easily in the top 6.
I would even say maybe top 15. Like I think that my argument here is not that the Isley Brothers aren't great. I think the Isley Brothers are phenomenal.
I just think there are older people in this room who are looking at you like, he don't know what he's talking about. he wasn't there slow. He wasn't there when we
We're
were
the
slow
same
drag.
age.
When we were slow drag. I know. I'm on their side, brother, and they on mine.
Okay, wait, there was a thing that I saw, it was, I don't know, a reel, but it was, and I can't remember who it was, so you're going to have to help me out here, work with me, about criticism, music criticism, and it was
Those
a piece...
Calefa Santa.
Okay.
Probably.
Yes, the thing about, like, music criticism used to be very mean, and then it got less mean.
I don't really agree with that. Whole
that's what I
piece,
want to ask you about.
I do respect it. We're technically co-workers, so I respect him and I respect his stance. Or we're literally co-workers. I think he works with the New Yorker still.
Yeah, I think that's what it was for.
You think it's gone soft?
No, I don't think. I think.
Let me just set up his. So his argument was that back in the day, music criticism used to be real tough. And he was reading some pieces where it was like, this sounds like, you know, a cat howling in an alley. It's the worst thing I've ever heard. And now there's been this move towards more gentle or no criticism at all. More just gentle review, casual. I liked it. And he was saying that perhaps the harsh criticism needed to come back, and here's why.
My question for that, in that entire piece is, who does that harshness serve other than the spectacle for cruelty, which is already kind of at an all-time high? What that actually omitted, that piece omitted, is that a lot of those older critics, if you're thinking about like 70s and 80s, they weren't necessarily serving the musician or the listener. They were serving their own kind of desire to enact a sense of superiority. So if I look at, this is my second time in one day invoking Lester Bangs, which is very funny because I haven't thought about him in a while. But if you read his old criticism, which is hard on the musicians, it's doing it out of a sense of affection. It isn't like I'm going off the rails and kind of, it's very much, if he's hitting Van Morrison, he's doing it because he's saying, I loved you once and I'm disappointed in what you've made.
Right.
Because I know that you can make better than this. And I don't actually think that there's a music critical ecosystem for that anymore. There's not a music criticism that can sustain that kind of scrutiny. One, because artists have perhaps grown too sensitive to having their work scrutinized.
I know
and
that's right.
there's a backlash to that. There's a backlash to that, which, look, candidly, because the embargo's up and most people know the story, I lost my job at MTV News and everybody lost their job at MTV News because of one critical Chance the Rapper review. You know what I mean? And so, like, Viacom fired all of us because one person was like, I went to the Chance concert, I didn't understand why there was all these fucking puppets dancing around. Which is a fair question to ask, I think.
Right.
And
Actual puppets.
Actual puppets on the Coloring Book tour. And look, like, They Can't Kill Us, I wrote about Coloring Book fondly. It was a good moment. But I, too, was at the Coloring Book tour. Like, why? I'm 35 years old. Why are all these fucking puppets everywhere? I shouldn't curse so much in the church.
I know,
I've been trying to tell you this, Hanif.
Sorry.
For some reason, you just refuse to take the cue. The whole time I've been like, Hanif,
Is there anyone else in here who is Muslim? Just me, huh?
We are in Jackson,
usually
Mississippi.
I feel like it's usually like one other one in the room.
Nah, brother.
Well,
Jackson, Mississippi.
Would anyone like to convert before now and the end of... It's a actually surprisingly very short process. Some of you may have already converted on accident.
We've got time. We certainly got time. Okay, but can I push back about this a little bit? Here's my thing about the harsh review. You're saying it doesn't serve the audience and it doesn't serve the musician. But what if it served the reader of the review? Not the necessary listener, but what about criticism as art? Criticism, like the ability to write something like that as entertainment for me. I'm probably not going to listen to the album either way, but I'm having a blast reading you tell me how bad this thing is. And I feel like the sensitivity of the fandom and the artist has ruined criticism because critics are scared of everybody. It's like nobody wants to say Taylor Swift is bad because Swifties are annoying. It's like they don't care about Taylor Swift. They're just like, I don't want to deal with 75 white ladies telling me that I don't know anything and you don't know anything about friendship bracelets.
Way more than 75.
Well, just 75 in the first 5 minutes.
70,000.
Like it's that I feel like critics are being held to a standard of no critic is writing for the band or for the listeners. They're writing for their audience. And I feel like we've taken that away from them.
But it's because Traci loves to give bad reviews.
I do, and it's fun, and people like it. Like I feel like people don't want to let me be great.
I'm somewhere in the middle. I don't have a problem. Like I'm somewhere in the middle. I think my only issue is me personally. I just hate, like, let's say I make a bad thing, right, or something that somebody thinks is a bad thing. I'm okay with you critiquing it and tearing it apart as long as it doesn't feel like you trying to make your name on mine.
I agree with that.
That's all.
I agree with that.
Don't try to make your bones on my back.
So often that's where we're at.
And that's what happens.
Right, that's
exactly.
true.
That's where we're
Back
at.
in the day, critics had their own, like, I'm a theater person. I used to love Ben Brantley. But Ben Brantley wasn't making his name off of Lin-Manuel Miranda. Ben Brantley was Ben Brantley. If he didn't like Hamilton, take it, And I do feel like now there's not a critic ecosystem because criticism has gotten so soft and gentle and, there are newspapers now that review books and it's just a synopsis. I have to read the review twice to say, was this good or bad? And so nobody that doesn't serve anybody.
Yeah, but they also put us. But so I've given those very milquetoast reviews, right? Well, I've given one because I refuse to do ever. I was like, I can't do any
Can't
New York
do this
Times.
again.
I can't do any more New York Times reviews. But the reason why is because they have us review our peers. I know these people. If I got a beef with this book, I'll call them and say like, "Hey, let's have a private."
Because we don't have critics.
I'm not exactly. But I'm not going to trash a person who is in my space.
Right, but you shouldn't even be asked to.
I should not be asked
That's
to.
my argument, is like the fact that criticism we've lost the plot on what a critic is supposed to do and what criticism is supposed to do and what a reviewer is supposed to do. It's not supposed to be a novelist who wrote the exact same novel 5 years ago reviewing the brand new novel, or who's like in the same space. You shouldn't be reviewing YA books. Like, because you are not a reviewer of YA books. You are a writer and you are a mentor and you are in the community.
But how do we contend with the comment section? So the reality is that like, how do we deal with the fact that the critic isn't necessarily a thing anymore because there are millions of critics every day? And are people really interested in nuanced criticism?
No,
and
that's the other thing. That's the pin has been pulled out of the grenade so long ago. Exactly. No one's interested in nuanced criticism because the real function of the critic is to contextualize art and place it in the moment it exists in and then filter that outward. Right. And I think what that New Yorker piece is asking for is like, be more mean to artists. And those aren't the same things. Those can sometimes be the same things, but not really. And if what people are interested in reading is someone who is critically more somewhat aggressive towards the art in art making, that makes sense to me. And if there's a hunger for that, that makes sense to me. But I would like a critic. I wrote a long piece on Little Brothers, the Minstrel Show, which had its 20th anniversary today, that album. And in order for me to write that piece, I had to like read or unearth all my research on minstrelsy and all my research on what it meant in 2005 to perform minstrelsy and what it might mean now to perform minstrelsy in the social media age. That is contextualizing art in a moment that it existed in, the moment that led up to it, and the moment now where people might be receiving it differently. That, to me, is the work of a critic. Yes. And that requires like a labor and care and also affection. And I think I can't speak for any other music critic or art critic. I personally am so less interested in spending my time on some shit I don't like. You know, like in terms of bringing words to the page. Now, if I'm on like Instagram, I might type out an Instagram story like this album wasn't for me or whatever. But when it comes to me committing like thousands of words to the page, because I'm doing that out of a real curiosity and a real affection, and it also takes a lot of work for me. And I really want to honor that work by properly contextualizing. Now, I do also think that artists are not musicians, I can't speak for musicians specifically, are not being held to a standard that demands better work because they don't have anything to, I hate to invoke him again, I suppose, but would Drake, for example, make better work if it mattered to him who he was making work for? I think maybe, because right now it doesn't really matter. It matters that his songs should play in the background of places.
Right.
And that's how you get on the charts.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I agree with your point that like real criticism is, like these real long pieces of contextualizing all of this, but I think maybe I'm conflating criticism and reviews. But I also think part of it is that because of what you're talking about, Jason, like people being asked to review their peers and not wanting to, we're getting so much criticism and reviews that are so middle of the road that why would anybody read it? Like it's like not only the part of the reason people don't care about it is because they've been so bad also, and like there's no place for it in the world. And there was that, again, I'm not talking about you guys, but there was that piece that came out that was saying that readership is like way, 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 way down in books. And I think part of it is because the reviewing criticism ecosystem is so bad, we don't have a book cultural zeitgeist. We don't have a place where people are going, except for these TikTok videos, right? That are just like people crying over, I was so moved by A Little Life. And I too was moved by A Little Life, but that's not necessarily creating the conversations around books that we need to be having in the same ways that we're having conversations about, White Lotus, right? Like, and not that that's any better of art, but it's that there's a space to have these conversations where we disagree publicly about the art that I feel like in music it's hard and in books it's really hard. I would argue it is harder, but I've never tried to do it in music, so I don't know. Yeah, not a question.
I don't pay much attention to the book. I was shocked last night. We were talking about other authors, talking to authors I adore and respect, and they were like, I read my reviews. I was like, people read their reviews?
I would never.
You read your reviews?
No, man.
It feels like none of my business.
It's not my business, good or bad.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah.
No.
But I understand. I also understand the impulse too. Like I understand the desire to. I understand the desire to want to know what's going on. I think I just don't have the. I think it's perhaps a failure of my own ability to soldier on. That I don't read. You know, like I don't think I could read a review of mine and be like, I can now go do the next thing.
I'm too sensitive, bro. I just quite frankly, I'm just too sensitive about. It's so. And this is the thing that like, and it's artists say this, and I think it's easy for us to say it, but it's also a truth. It's so easy for people to tell you what they don't like about something that they can't do. So for me, it's really difficult. So it's hard, and it doesn't mean like when I think about you and critiquing music, I also know the amount of work that you do to try to make sure that you're being thoughtful about the thing that you're talking about. But somebody reading a thing in 3 hours that took me 3 years to make and telling me that this ain't whatever, blah, 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 blah. It's like, I don't have time for that. I don't have the energy. I don't have enough fortitude, because I'm the type of person who try to make a call, right? Who'll be like, oh, let me figure out who this is. Let me see. Like,
Yeah.
you see what I'm saying? I'm too personal. So I just don't read. I'm cool on it.
I think it's important for artists to know that just because something concerns you doesn't mean it's for you. You know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff where it's like concerns me, but it's not for me. It's not. I'm not going on Goodreads. I'm not going on Tumblr. I don't even look at my Instagram comments. You know what I mean? Like, and those are comments on the thing I posted, and it's all because I think the ecosystem I want to exist in is one wherein I assume that there are people who consume my work and do not have the same affection for it as other people, and that is very healthy.
It's okay.
That's like extremely healthy, and I also don't need to play a role in that ecosystem at all.
If everybody liked it, then you haven't done your gig.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Then you don't have a point of view, right?
Yeah.
But I also think, and this is to your point, Traci, about the book review thing, and this is another thing that bothers me and why I can't do it publicly. I can always tell people in private, like, hey, you really missed the mark, right? We can have some real, I don't have a problem with that. And we can kind of get into it and have that conversation. But I can never publicly trash somebody because I know how hard it is to make anything.
Yes.
And so even a bad thing, somebody had to make. Even a bad thing, someone had to sit with and wrestle with and toil through and make. And for me, it's like, I got issues with it. But I don't mind just being like, let's talk about the book instead of me trashing. And if I did trash it or pan it, I would be very careful to just try my best to there is some sort of affection that I have to, as a writer, that I personally have to sort of put forth just because I know the work that it takes to do any of it.
Sure. I've made a lot of bad things in my life. I mean, I was in the theater for a long time. I made a lot of bad, embarrassing things. And I think maybe because the way that works is slightly different than the way that like the book world works, I feel less precious about bad things. I will have been in shows where not only did I know it was bad while I was doing it, I also knew it was bad when I was going up to people afterwards and they were saying,
That's
"Oh, wow,
that's different."
No, but it's something that you've made. I didn't try to make it bad, but like knowing that you're part of, like knowing that the work that you're putting out in the world is not going to be in the theater. You get a script, you work on it.
You knew it was bad when you were putting it out.
I knew it was bad because I knew that the director wasn't great or whatever, but like I knew that the thing wasn't good and I understood that, and I feel like that's not my, like, I do, you do the best you can, but sometimes the best you can is just the best you can.
But writing is different only because it's you and the editor.
Sure.
And what we putting out, at least I can't speak for all writers, but there has not been a book I've ever put out that I was like, this is it. I'm always like, hey, whatever this is, after all this work, I don't know if it's great just because I have insecurities, but I know that it's worth. I'm ready to put it into the world.
Sure.
It is ready. Right?
I just think bad art is okay, is what I'm trying to say. I think it's okay to make a bad thing, and I think that it's okay for people to say that's a bad thing. And I don't think that it means that like it's not hard. It's just as hard to make a bad thing as it is to make a good thing in a lot of ways.
That's my point, right?
Right. So that's why I think it's okay to call it out if it's bad or good.
I think it is too. I'm just saying why I have a hard time.
Why you have
right? As a person who makes the thing good or bad, and it's sort of dedicated my life to making the thing, it is hard for me. Just because it's like, like, bro, I don't want to have to trash you knowing
Yeah.
for a fact that you spent 5 years trying to make a thing that you thought was good.
Right.
And sometimes it's a question of ambition versus ability. I mean, we bring up Stevie Wonder, but truly one of my favorite Stevie Wonder records is The Secret Life of Plants because
Me too.
the level of ambition it took to, and that got panned critically when it came out.
Yeah.
Because people actually didn't understand what he was attempting to do.
Yeah.
So he was trying to actually invent a way to formulate a language with nature, like in a very literal way.
Yeah.
And I will take that level of ambition and failure, quote unquote failure,
Yes.
over doing the same thing over and over again. I hope to never write the same book. If I wanted to, I could just put out They Can't Kill Us Till They Kill Us Part 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Everyone would be satisfied enough. They'd be like cool music essays. I don't ever want to write the same book twice. I would
Right.
rather fail at trying to invent something different. I also think, sometimes honesty is telling someone you love that they did their best in ways that are very vague. So
That's right.
I love
It's true.
if you watch, like, I don't know if anyone here watches Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, our man Guy
Yeah,
Fieri.
Guy Fieri.
If you could tell when he doesn't like a dish because he'll just name the ingredients very enthusiastically.
Yes, that's right.
He'll just be like, oh yeah, I taste the tomato sauce.
Yes.
I got the Parmesan cheese.
That was the joke in theater. It used to be, wow,
You
the
got-
costumes
yeah,
were
you
so
just gotta do that.
beautiful.
You got to do that. You just got to be like, yo, I loved seeing the words on the page. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
I loved holding it.
That's
Tell
exactly
the truth,
right.
but tell it slant.
Yeah.
Tell the truth, but
That's
tell
exactly
it slant.
right. Okay, you all have a chance to ask questions. Go ahead, Cree.
Hanif got potty mouth. Ask him about it.
Yeah. Oh, get her mic'd up.
I don't want to be that close. Okay. I think one of the reasons that I enjoy your works, Jason and Hanif, is both of you just emote such passion and enthusiasm when you're into something. And so I really just want to know if there's anything that you are geeked about right now. It could be a song or a book or a concept, a running shoe, anything.
Oh, so many things.
Yeah.
For me, right at this moment, I'm really into old butane lighters. This is true. I'm collecting all these old precious metal lighters with adjustable flames, and they got this weird, the spark is it's counterintuitive. You got to move it this way instead of this way, right? This weird thing. They got the flip, really sort of. I just love them as objects. So a lot of money's going into these lighters these days. Lots of art collecting, lots of watches and weird stuff that was made in the 40s and 50s. Yeah, timepieces, trench watches from World War I, and all this kind of weird stuff is sort of taking over my house at the moment. Lots of weird candle makers. I found these glasses recently, made in I think the 50s, where they were meant to sort of put your bourbon in, and then there's a little hook here, and this is where you sort of hold your cigar, and it's like a cigar, and those are interesting. So I bought those because I need to have these things, right? And I have some
Can't
of
just be
those.
into it,
And
you
I
have to have it for
yeah,
sure.
it's just
it's gotta be in your house.
I'm definitely a maximalist, right? I have lots of collections of lots of things, lots of suitcases, right? Hate suitcases though. I hate carrying a suitcase, but I really love the way suitcases look. And I just started using a roller bag a month ago because I just hate cases to have with me, but I like to have them around me. Yeah, it's stuff. I know, yeah. What about you?
I mean, I think we're similar. The thing I meant to say about Jason's work earlier is that what I love about it is that it accumulates. It's the work of accumulation. It's the poet Araceli Skirmay is similar in this way, where the work just accumulates. And I think it's because I think she is also a collector. It's a collector spirit, which I sense because I too am a collector of many things. And so right now, around A Little Devil in America, I got a hard drive of every Soul Train episode from the pilot until 1994. And so I've been building my just archive of physical media. I have this hard drive of every Janet Jackson concert on the Rhythm Nation tour that I sought out for a long time. I have a hard drive with every stop on Mariah Carey's Daydream tour that I haven't gotten through yet that I'm excited to get through. And I collect these because it's really great to see how subtly performances change from night to night. I have this hard drive of very rare Selena concerts, all through when she did that tour up and through Texas. And that one is especially interesting because you could tell how her performance shifted the further she got away from the border. And that's so fascinating to me. So that's a big thing. I collect old black magazines. And so right now I'm really on a kick of getting old blues and soul magazines. I was searching for one with Phyllis Hyman in it. There's one with Phyllis Hyman on the cover. She gives this very funny interview where we're in a church.
Hasn't stopped you so far.
I will say,
Might as well say
look up the
it.
Phyllis Hyman Blues and Soul interview. She gives this very funny answer about batteries and electricity. And I read it when I was 10, and now it's like I gotta have. So I collect a lot of magazines. I'm collecting right now, and I collect a lot of old vintage like shirts, T-shirts. This is an old soccer jersey, but normally I have on like an old band T-shirt. But right now, my clothing collection obsession is promo jackets from black films, and so I found yesterday like Tales from the Hood jacket that a person in so much of I'm in this like black vintage collectors group chat where we all just trade stuff. Because all this shit is like, on the open market is very expensive. Like the person who's selling this Tales from the Hood jacket is trying to sell it for like $3,000, but it's like, I could probably trade, I have like a surplus of Whitney Houston jackets. I can just trade one to get that. And I have
Are they all like flight jackets?
some are flight jackets, some are like wool varsity jackets.
Varsities.
So I have like a Do the Right Thing jacket that's like half red, half yellow, black and green on the back. I have a Waiting to Exhale jacket that is on the way to me as we speak.
Ooh.
So it's like the black, I love like the black movie promo jacket is maybe my new obsession at the moment. And sneakers, I'm a big sneakerhead, like massive sneakerhead. So sneakers are the ongoing thing in the background of my collecting spirit. I'm always on the hunt for a pair that I don't have.
I'm so not a collector.
Stuff.
He's choosing. Yeah.
Damn.
I have one quick question and then a second real question. My first question is, Jason, I was behind you at the Jerk City Grill truck earlier, and I didn't really understand that you were Jason Reynolds, and I tried to get your attention to ask where your pants are from, because
Every time I do an event with you, people ask about your pants.
I really like you're like maybe getting the best dressed award at the book fest for me.
I appreciate that. These are Loewe. These are Loewe pants.
Oh, never mind. Okay, I can't afford that.
You're like, nope. I mean, that is.
She said that shit just sound expensive.
She said, I ain't doing that.
No, I'm a
sound
teacher.
out my
Like I
price
teach your books,
my
and like, thanks, but yeah, I'm a teacher, so no.
It's like, you know what I mean?
That's right.
It's one of those
Thank
words where it's
you.
like the word isn't that long, but it got a lot of syllables.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
sounds
one for each
not
dollar sign.
cheap.
Yeah, like that's a W that's pronounced different. Yeah. My second question is, both of y'all have upcoming books that I'm very excited about. Could you talk about what a soundtrack to each of your upcoming books would contain?
Yeah.
Transmutation.
I'm gonna have to think about this one because there's a book I want to talk about that's not coming out, and that's not coming out next, but that's coming out soon. But I'm trying to figure out for Coach. It's 88, so
Great year. Great rap year.
I guess,
Incredible
one of the best rap
Maybe
years.
Hanif should do your soundtrack for you.
Huh?
Maybe he should do your soundtrack for you.
I know. I just talk that to you. Like, put me down, man. Make a playlist for the kid, man. What would you say for yours?
Well, the title of there's the easy answer. One, the title of my book is I'm Always Looking Up and You're Jumping, which is a line from the Spanish love song, Brave Faces Everyone. And asking them to borrow that line for the book was very funny because I reached out to the lead singer and he's like, the book seems like it's going to be sad. And I was like, yeah, man, let me grab that title. So probably that, but also like a lot of Nina Simone. The blues are kind of at the background of the book, I think, too. And so a lot of Delta blues, I think, would be there. I grew up listening to the blues, and I think they have not really permeated the work until now. I think because one of my dear friends and mentors, the poet Scott Woods, always says, the blues isn't about life, the blues are about consequences. And I think about that all the time. So I think the blues, perhaps, but also that Spanish love songs, which is the engine for the whole thing.
I mean, 88 hip-hop for me. All the rap music of 88.
Great year.
Which is a great year, one of the turning point years in hip hop.
We have time for one more. Well, I don't want to be the problem. You could be the problem. He did it, not me, so just. The suspense is killing me.
First, I just wanted to thank you all. I really appreciated the direction that the conversation went with criticism and the value of criticism. And my question for you is, if you think, if it's given that, newspapers across the country are firing their art critics, we've established that there's not much of a ecosystem for criticism. Is there a relationship between that and sort of the lack of media literacy that we see across the country? And I'm a bit biased because I'm an art critic, but I'd love to hear whether you think there's a relationship there.
Biased but correct. I mean, truly correct, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we were sort of talking about this earlier today, Jason and I. We were talking a little bit about how just by writing a book, you become an expert, and that there's a lot of people who are writing books who are not experts.
You're seen as an expert.
Yes, you're seen as an expert. And there's a lot of people who are writing books who are not experts. And without the voice of this outside critic or this outside person to help people contextualize, I think people are having a hard time seeing a charlatan from a genius or whatever, or anything in between.
I mean, I think it's a lot of things, though. I think that's a big part of it. But if I'm thinking about the spaces in which I'm working, which though the books are for the general public, because of the categorization, I have to kind of take that into account for this, because it's the children's sort of categorization, right? And what's happening on our side also has to do with publishers' fear of making a thing that will be banned or cause controversy, or we're up against a lot of other things, right? It's so part of this is a lack of criticism, and then part of this is the kind of criticism that is sort of tossed at people like me that can actually shut down your book, right? Which in today's time has been a real problem, and I think that's also part of it, which then of course wipes a whole half of a curriculum or a library or a school, right? It's so now all of a sudden they're getting works that unfortunately are one-sided and aren't showing sort of a broader view of what it means to be a young person in America, right? And so I think that's for me at least, that's another part of that equation.
And the thing I'll say too, that we didn't hit on maybe, is that the critic's work is also, as you know, as an art critic, is to be principled in approach. Because I don't know if I trust, to put it a different way, a thing I struggle with just seeing and reading things on the internet broadly is that there's a loss of maybe, for lack of a better word, principled hater, being a principled hater, you know what I mean? And not being, this is important because the critic does not need to run their distaste through a filter to justify it. For example, if I don't like if I don't like a rapper, they are instantly an industry plant because I cannot relate to why anyone would like them because I don't like them, and so therefore the problem is not with me, it is with the entire world around me. The critic's job is to not actually need to justify their distaste through that kind of extreme lack of principle. And I think a decline in media literacy is in part because of these things that you mentioned, but also because of a heightened individualism where people are requiring the world to kind of bend to their whims and their tastes. And if the world does not bend to their whims and their tastes, the impulse is not curiosity. The impulse isn't let me seek out something that I might enjoy. The impulse is to say, everyone is wrong, and this person who is making a thing I don't understand is Satan. You know what I mean? Or whatever else. And I think that's also that is an intersection of failure of media literacy, a hyper-individualism, and a growing crisis of cruelty, which I think is consuming all corners of our brains and worlds.
I think we're done.
Sorry, Dan, on such a down note.
We're done. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Applause. Thank you all. I think y'all are maybe headed to some signing tables.
You're definitely signing. You already signed. I don't know if you're signing again. I don't think Hanif's signing again.
Great.
Jason signing.
They're going to head to the author signing table tents that you'll find over in front of the Capitol. So if you'll head out, we're going to clear the room for the next panel. Have a great rest of the afternoon.